A lot of kids were like, I was technically safe, but I was really unseen and unknown to my parents.
Yeah.
So it didn't feel like who I was, the thoughts I was exploring, the curiosities I had about the world, or just the like dumb interests that I had, salt and pepper or whatever, that my parents saw that or had any curiosity about that in me. I think that the best relationships of any age and any stage are ones where people maintain a curiosity about the other person.
Welcome back to How Are You Arriving? Today begins a 4-part series called The Resilience Factor. What does it really mean to be resilient? In the next 4 episodes, we'll dive into what resilience looks like in everyday life, in our relationships, in the middle of internal obstacles, and during big transitions. And then we'll examine the growth that comes after the hardship and struggle. You'll hear real stories and practical tools, of course, because I'm always about the tools that you can apply in your own life. So subscribe now and join me as we explore how resilience helps us bounce back. Welcome to How Are You Arriving? Conversations with Cristina Young. After 13 years of leading weekly parenting groups, I'm bringing my favorite question to the mic. How are you arriving? These honest conversations go beyond small talk into family dynamics, parenting, wellness, tough decisions, aging, and what it means to live authentically. If you're craving real talk with heart, you're in the right place. I am thrilled to welcome parenting expert and author Michelle Icard to my show today. Thank you so much for being here, Michelle.
Thanks, Christina. I'm excited to talk with you.
Oh, thank you so much for making the time. So I'm currently in the middle of a series on my podcast that is called The Resilience Factor. And I'm interviewing 4 different people for that series. And this episode is called Relational Resilience, The Power of Connection Among Teens with Michelle Icard. There's a few things that I want my audience to know about the very accomplished Michelle before we begin. First and most important is that Michelle loves dogs, like I do. It's crucial information. She also has grown-up adult kids like I do. She's got a funny and adoring husband like I do. And we've both worked with parents and children and teachers for more than 20 years. But now things begin to get a little different. Michelle has created curriculum, books, and programs that help parents and teachers better understand and navigate early adolescence, which is such a contribution. She is, in fact, the author of 3 books on the subject. I have 2 of them right here. They mean a lot to me. This one, 14 Talks, amazing, amazing. And this one, incredible, 8 Setbacks. They're fabulous, fabulous books. And as I think Michelle might know, I run groups for moms, and my moms love you. And
No.
they couldn't believe when I said, like, guess who I'm interviewing on they're like, what? How did you get her? That's awesome. So you've got some fans down here in
I'm
my
delighted to hear that. And I'm so happy that you called my books the way I do by their first names. Like
well, I mean,
Setbacks, 14 Talks. That's so
it's
good.
just a little bit simpler, but
I love it.
they have long, thorough, very explanatory titles. But
But I like that. I
okay,
like the
good. We're
names.
keeping them a little bit shorter here. In addition to I'm not done with your bio. In addition to writing these 2 excellent parenting books, Michelle is also a guest and writer for the Today Show parenting team. What? NBC News, Learn, CNN Science and Wellness. She writes for the Washington Post. Okay, I could go on, but I decided to stop there. But really, just remarkable accolades. So we're just so honored that you're taking the time to be here. And I want to begin with sort of defining resilience as we're going to use it in our show today, and just kind of make sure we're on the same page with that. So resilience is the capacity to adapt well in the face of adversity, stress, significant challenges. Does that sound right to you?
Absolutely. I'm on board.
Absolutely. Okay, awesome. And I guess the other flavor of resilience that I like to talk about is that bounce back part. That if we're really resilient, we also have the ability to bounce back, even to flourish because of the hardship that we encountered. So we're going to get into that as well. One lens I just want to use before we dive in is that some resilience is not about standing alone, but really about leaning into family, friendships, school, culture, community, and our connections can actually be the strongest anchor in the storm. So I
Yes.
know from your work that you are a big believer in this as well. Let's start with this, Michelle. I want to ask you to wear your Just Michelle hat for some of this, but your Michelle as parenting expert, parenting author hat for some of it as well. When has someone else's support carried you through a difficult time? What comes to mind?
I mean, I have an immediate example. So, you know that I have older kids. My son is 23, my daughter is 25. My son has two friends who separately each had a parent die recently.
Wow.
And we had a funeral on Sunday, and it was
Oh,
gutting to me. And my daughter, who's 25, was home. And I came downstairs, and she had found my black dress purse. And she said, I have put tissues, lip balm, and throat lozenges in here for you.
oh,
It was the kindest, gentlest,
oh,
hugest thing someone could do when I was just, I mean, this wasn't about me. It wasn't my husband's funeral. It wasn't, but like I was going into it with a real sense of dread I knew the
sure.
level of emotional exhaustion and grief that I would be feeling here. And to have my daughter mother me in that way and be like, and she made soup while I was gone at the funeral. I had it ready for me when I got home. And it just felt like,
Wow.
thank you
That's
for taking care
priceless.
of me. Yeah.
That is priceless. And by the way, you earned that
Yeah.
by mothering for 25 years successfully. And
Thank
these are when I have 26, 23, and 20, and we're beginning to see the fruits of our labor, aren't we?
It is really nice. I mean, I do feel that way that the love I gave them was without condition and without rules and without boundaries. And I feel they're generous with their love back.
Oh.
And I also am cautious about parents who feel that they've earned a payback. Do you know what I mean? Because I
Mhm.
see that a lot. I sort of kind of hover around some parenting groups online. I don't know if you do the same thing, but I'm really interested in like what parents are feeling and what the trends are. And there is such a generational attitude that I see of parents being like, well, I did for you,
What do
therefore,
I get
and
back?
what's transactional. So I'm grateful for it and I don't take it for granted because I know that it's a choice. It's not an
Exactly.
obligation. It is a choice. And I'm so happy that they choose to give so freely and so openly. And I hope that I modeled that for them.
And I would suspect that that's exactly what you did and why you observed what you did. But it's such a touching story to open with, and just like beautiful, beautiful
Yeah.
thoughtfulness.
Yeah. It's really, really sweet at a really hard time. So I'm glad you asked. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, how do you balance being strong for others with letting others support you? So you just told us a beautiful example of that, but
Mhm.
more in your everyday life, you're a busy person. You have a lot on your plate. Is there something that comes to mind with how you balance giving, but also allowing yourself to be given to?
Oh, I'm good at being given to. I'm not shy about saying
So
what I
glad to
need. I mean,
hear.
like, I need my friends, I need my family, whatever it might be. I'm a real introverted person, so I am busy and I'm very protective of my own battery. So I take a lot of time. I guard my bedtime. Everyone knows that I am first in, first out at a party. I like to get there and say hi, but faffo, I'm like, see you guys later.
Love
I'm
it.
not getting home past 9. I'm weirdly strict about that kind of stuff. And I really believe in the power of groups. I've only kind of discovered this. I'm 52, so I've discovered this later in life that kind of curating and managing these social pockets, so a book club or a group of friends over here and a group of writer friends over here, a group of college friends who I've reconnected with recently, a group of high school friends who I still chat with. These things are so critical to kind of nourishing my energy. And because I'm an introvert, they don't require me to do all the work or all the talking. I participate, I get a lot, I give a lot, but it's not like as demanding as a one-on-one kind of situation. So for me, that's the key to happiness is having those kind of guardrails on the things that keep me sane and safe, but also having outlets that are social and that are communal.
Can you just move to Miami and be my new best friend?
Yes. Sure, we have to form a group though.
Yeah, exactly. Not one-on-one, God forbid. I feel like you're speaking my language, Michelle, and anybody who knows me, you literally, we could have just pressed mute and had me saying the exact same thing, and they would have been like, yeah, that's you too.
In bed by 9.
In bed by 9, so introverted, believe it or not,
Yeah.
very protective of my space. But I have a question for you. Are you familiar with someone named Priya Parker
No.
who wrote the book called The Art of Gathering?
No.
I think you might love it.
Okay.
She is an incredible group facilitator, and I study her. I loved her book. She's on Substack. I just joined her Substack group because
Ah,
she's
I'm making a note.
teaching group facilitators, which is how I define what I do. She's teaching us to be even better at facilitating groups. And it sounds like you too are a small group devotee.
I am, and I am also known as the facilitator of our groups. When I show up, people are like, "What question do you have for us?" And I'm
Oh
like,
my gosh, I love
"Here's
it.
what I was thinking," and I always make them weird. So Priya Parker,
I think I would be so remiss if I got her name wrong right now,
that's
but I
okay.
believe it's Priya Parker. The
Yeah,
book, I know the book title because I worship her book called The
yeah,
Art of Gathering.
great.
And
Okay,
I just have to say one other tidbit about it. She believes that it is the responsibility of the host or hostess to make everybody who has gathered comfortable. That's
yes,
her premise. And I love it so much. And it's changed the way that I host, even a dinner, a birthday.
yeah.
It's changed it so much. So
Okay, that's huge.
yeah,
I'm definitely going to get it because that
love
that
it.
is, I feel like a real calling for me is to
I
bring
hear
leaders
it.
together and feel
I
comfortable.
hear it.
Yeah, okay.
So, different question for you. How do you think we teach teenagers to manage the skills of building resilience, maintaining resilience, offering resilience to others? What could you give us in terms of specific to teenagers?
Okay. I am from Boston and I swear a lot, so I hope you don't mind and I hope you're
We're good with potty talk here.
okay. I think you just let them fuck up and you just say it. You just say like you're not upset by even really bad mistakes. You don't cringe at social awkwardness. You don't get mad when your teen isn't fully formed and fully developed. You just say like this whole process growing up, it's just about fucking up and then
Over and
figure
over again.
over and over and over again, and that's how you learn. And if the expectation is that your child is going to strive to do well, that's the wrong expectation. You want them to end up well, but they end up well by taking a very crooked path there, and that can look a million different ways, but it never looks perfect and obedient and exceptional. It just looks very muddy and unclear. And you want kids to feel regret, and you want them to feel embarrassment, and you want them to understand how it is to feel pain. All of these things, because that's how they learn. They don't learn from a good lecture. They don't learn from a good pep talk. They
Mm-mm.
learn because they identify that emotion and they say, "Ooh, I don't want to feel that again." So I think that you help kids build resilience by saying like, okay, that sucked. That was a painful moment, and that's okay. That's just being human. Where do we go
Mhm.
from here? So
Mhm.
a very calm reaction in the face of all these really muddy, upsetting things, I think is the way that you guide kids towards that building of coping skills.
Love it. Brings me to another very important question.
Mhm.
How do you think we develop that very calm stance as a parent?
Right.
Sorry to ask you that one. It's a hard one.
No, but it's so important, and it is a matter of practice. And again, you don't have to strive for perfection. You don't have to have a calm demeanor all the time. But truly, I think you have to, from the beginning, you have to accept that you are raising someone apart from you, someone whose job it is to separate from you, someone
Important.
who will be who they will be regardless. They might end up being a different political party. They might end up being a different gender identity. Who knows what's going to happen? But your kid is going to be who they're going to be. And your job is not to curate that. Your job is to like make the soil fertile for them to grow however they're going to grow. So first you accept that. That's really hard for a lot of parents because they think,
Super hard. And by the way, I'd like to do a full redo of like the earliest years of me being a parent and
"Ah,
and be able to already have that kind of awareness. I didn't get it until later. And I preach about this kind of awareness to my parenting groups, like acceptance, acceptance.
yeah, but you got it when you got it." And that's the same thing that we can say to kids. It's like, it
Yeah,
doesn't matter if you learned the lesson when you're 16 or when you're 21.
at least you got it.
Got the lesson. So that's great. So if you got it, awesome. And then once your kid knows that, I think they push back a lot less, right? So you end up having a nicer relationship with them.
So
There's
true.
way less pushback. And from there, I think you just have to like have an outlet away from your kid. You're allowed to be fully human. You're allowed to have a full emotional response to what your kid does, but you want to keep it separate to a degree. I mean, at least keep the emotionality of it separate so that then you can go to your partner or your pillow or your best friend and scream how upset you are, and
Mhm.
then back to your kid and reasonably talk about being
Mhm.
upset
Mhm.
without erupting all over the place.
Yes.
So I think those things are helpful, and then practice, practice, practice.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Love it, love it. It all sounds super familiar to what I
Yeah,
am preaching in South Florida.
great.
Yes. Um, what strengths do you see teenagers drawing on to be resilient, and in what ways does their age make resilience more challenging?
So I think I do a lot of work in the middle school space. I started off really only being in middle school, and once my kids were kind of late in college, I explored high school a little bit, but I never wanted to be working. I had to work in middle school when they were in middle school, but I tried to kind of avoid their space. I was
Yeah.
working in middle school when they were 2 and 4, and suddenly they met me there. And then they passed through. The point is, I kind of specialized in middle school for a really long time. And so I'm not sure if my answer is biased because of that or if it's true,
And just
but
well
I
informed.
maybe I think that it's hard to be resilient in middle school because it is your first time experiencing separation from parents. You have this internal drive that says, maybe I shouldn't spend all my time with my parents trying to be like my parents. You have these external influences that are saying, be like this, look like this, think like this, act like this.
Mm.
You've got this search for an identity that's pushing you towards like, maybe I don't want to dress this way. Maybe I don't want to be friends with this kid I've been friends with since elementary school.
Mhm.
Maybe I don't believe what my parents believe. It's a ton of conflict. It's like the perfect storm of disruption.
Yep.
And so it's really hard to be resilient when you're building a house on shifting sand.
Yes.
So I think that's the toughest time.
Yeah. So I wonder what allows certain kids to flourish a bit more in that turbulent time than others. Any
Yeah.
insights on that?
I mean, I think there's some biology there. Maybe you have more anxiety than another kid. Maybe you haven't had an opportunity to develop coping skills the way other kids have. So I think that can be biology, that can be sort of nurturing, how you were brought up. I think there are things that we can do as parents that will make it easier for our kids for sure. And one of those is reacting without judgment. And that is so hard because a lot of parents think, oh no, the world is getting bigger. My kid is exposed to more danger, internet, parties, drinking, friends. I ought to really tighten my grip right now because
Yeah.
things are less safe. And with that can come a lot of feelings of judgment. Like, I don't know about that kid. I don't know if you should be hanging out. I've
Mm.
seen their Instagram. Or, you know, I I'm nervous about how your interest in being alone all the time. What does that mean?
Mhm. Mhm.
And the kid feels really like they're
Judged.
being analyzed, like they're being judged, like they're being criticized all the time.
Mhm.
And that's a hard thing to feel strong throughout.
Mhm.
So I want parents to sort of develop this skill of being able to deliver feedback almost, it's a cliche, but that sort of sandwich of it's not start with a compliment, it's start with a strength. So say to your child, you're really good at X, you're really good at organizing, or you're really good at quietly leading a group of people, or you're really good at receiving information. And I notice when you're with this friend, you seem quieter than you usually do.
Hmm.
And I was wondering what your thoughts are on that. Do you feel different when you're with this friend than when you're with somebody else? So you're not coming in and saying, "Don't hang out with so and so. They take away your shine." You know?
Right.
Instead, you're observing and you're starting with a real strength and then ending it kind of like for the kid to interpret.
Love it. Love it. I remember somewhere reading this specific script about if your kid is hanging around with a kid you're not so sure of, to be able to say, David seems a little bit different than some of your other friends, like really open-ended and vague,
That's
but
right.
so that the kid can start to explain, like, yeah, but this is what I love about David. You might not be able to see it, but this is
Right.
what I love about David. Okay, Michelle, you had a great Instagram post where you posted like kind of horrific hairstyles on middle schoolers.
Oh,
I don't know if you remember this, and then but your advice to parents looking at that particular post was something about like just go with it. Do not freak out if they try to change their appearance, try to change their identity.
oh
They're
yeah.
just they're doing their middle school thing, right? I
They're
don't know,
doing
that one made me chuckle because it's very hard when they come out dressed in their whatever, like, okay, I'm goth this week, right?
yeah.
To be and like still be like, oh, morning, Mary.
Especially
Right.
when you're like, we're going to my friend's birthday and you're okay. Cool.
Totally.
Parents really see their kids through middle school as an accessory, an extension of themselves in many ways. And it's so interesting. Like, you're a full-grown adult. Don't worry about what this kid's style says about you as
Yes.
a parent.
Yes.
Just you're going to look like a better parent if you have a kid who shows up with some wacky hairdo and strange combination of clothes and you're very cool with it,
Yes.
that looks so much better. This is the advice we would give our kids, right? Have confidence in yourself.
Yes.
Don't worry about what your friends are doing. This is what I want to say to parents. Like,
The
don't worry
same
about how your
thing.
kid is showing up.
Exactly.
Have
Exactly.
confidence in who you are as a
Yeah.
person and not worry that they're going to be a bad reflection on you because their hair isn't well washed, it's a little greasy, or, whatever.
It's just such an important directive. And I think it's one of the ones that parents struggle the most with is like, get yourself over in your lane. And your 14-year-old, she's way over in her lane. And don't even dip a toe in her lane. Just let her do her thing. She's got the crazy makeup and the 17 earring. Like, let her be. Let her do her thing, right? But
Exactly.
I love
Yeah.
what you're saying, Michelle, about parents using a teenager as an accessory is like spot on.
It really feels like the I understand it. You do worry. Like, will parents think and I think judgment is at its highest right now.
Yes.
And so people really worry, will other people see me as a bad parent?
Yes.
Will other people not take my kids seriously because they're dressed sexy? Or,
Yes.
or will they think my son is, not worth being friends with, doesn't want their kids to play with my son because he's in a big old hoodie every day, Like parents worry about these things and sometimes it's superficial and sometimes it's really legitimate. They are concerned. I had a parent in my parenting group say she is a new parent. She is a foster parent who adopted I think a nephew.
Hmm.
And so she was like, I'm worried that someone will call CPS if I let my nephew stand in the rain in a hoodie waiting for the bus. He will
Wow.
not carry an umbrella. You know, a kid won't carry an umbrella. So
Yeah.
it's not her fault.
Yeah.
And people were like, no, 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 parents would never call CPS. And she was like, no,
Yeah.
parents
Yeah. They
have.
put.
They have. And also, this is a kid who's been in foster care. And the
Mm.
trauma that would cause is so big. So sometimes it's a very legitimate fear, and sometimes it's a very superficial fear, and
Mhm.
fear is fear. So I don't want to dismiss that, but I do want to say, like, here's something you can put down. I hope you can worry less about what people think about your child's appearance, because it's going to change. I guarantee it's going to change.
I want to talk to you about an organization I really admire here in Miami. If you're looking for a way to make a real difference, LEAP helps formerly incarcerated women, many of them moms, rebuild their lives through in-prison education, safe transitional housing, and job training. Learn more at leapforladies.org and be a part of a woman's second chance. I feel like we're circling around a really important point of parenting, which is if you don't have yourself sorted out and your issues and your blind spots and your degree of confidence and competence,
Yes.
you're going to get triggered all over the place by the decisions that your teenagers are making.
It's such a good point. And I think it's a scary one for parents because they're like, how do I know if I have myself figured out?
Yes. Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
You probably do. You probably can let most things go.
Yes. Yes. It's in fact, that's such a nice sort of mantra of like, yeah, for the most part, let it all go. I think I spend a lot of time in my office talking to people about their teenager's messy bedroom.
Oh, yeah.
Find most of the time I say, does it have a door?
Yes.
It has a door. You're done. The problem is close the door, avert your eyes and walk away is how you're going to solve that problem.
I think it's interesting that parents seem to worry that however their kid begins to emerge in adolescence is how they will end. And it's hard to remind parents that this is a long process and who you were at 13 certainly isn't who you are now. My room was bonkers crazy when I was 13. I was boy crazy when I was 13, like in a silly way.
Yeah.
I had a really weird sense of style. I have several photos of me with friends where we were trying to be alt in some way.
Yeah. Yeah.
I grew up in Medford, Massachusetts, and my school was in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and we hung a lot in the pit where it was like very punk rock, and we were very like suburban nerdy kids. But so we tried to fit in, being a little bit punk, and we weren't. But that whole time is just, I call it the buffet of life. Your kid is bellying up to the buffet. There are a million choices.
Mhm.
And they want to try things and say, like, is this the right flavor for me? Or is this the flavor I like better? And if we say to them, no, 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 you're a chicken tenders kid only. Don't go down there and try the lo mein. You like chicken tenders.
Yeah.
That's terrible. And so you want your kid to belly up to the buffet. Try something and say, that's not me. Try something else and say, that's not me. And that includes messy rooms and weird hairstyles and all of it.
All of it. Okay, you're just making me remember my do you remember that unbelievable girl band Salt and Pepper?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I had super short hair, jumbo earrings, black leather jacket, and I was like, I'm in Salt and Pepper. You might not have
Yes.
seen me, but you might not know I'm in that band as well. I really thought that I was I loved trying to emulate them. It was one of the identities that I tried on.
Yeah. And you are not that person right now.
I'm not. I'm
But
actually
you
not.
got to figure out who you were along the way.
Yes,
You
and
needed to
there's a little shred of them still in me.
love that so
I
much.
also am thinking about your comment on sort of future casting.
Yeah.
And I call it like when you imagine that your 40-year-old is living in your basement, but hold on, they're only 13.
Right.
The mistake they made today does not mean they're going to be the 40-year-old living in your basement. But I think we're often guilty of that, right?
Totally. There's a lot of, is my kid antisocial? Is my kid a sociopath? Is my kid a narcissist?
Yes.
No, they're just figuring out who they are.
Yeah.
It's a very, intensive self-focused time of life. It needs to be just
Mhm.
like you said, get out of their lane. Like let them mess around in that lane for a while. Yeah.
Try on all of those identities.
Mhm.
Let's switch gears a little bit here, Michelle, and I'm curious to know what role you think being seen or mattering to others has to do with building resilience. I'm super interested in that whole concept of mattering,
Yeah.
and I'm just curious to see what are your thoughts on that?
This is a question I've never been asked before, so thank you, because a
Mhm.
lot of times I get very similar kind of train of thoughts.
Yeah.
I think it's hugely important. So I think that a lot of times parents, at least I will say in previous generations, I still think it's happening now, but I can speak better historically. There was an idea that if your kids were safe, you were doing your job.
Yes.
But a lot of kids were like, I was technically safe, but I was really unseen and unknown to my parents.
Yeah.
So it didn't feel like who I was, the thoughts I was exploring, the curiosities I had about the world, or just the like dumb interests that I had, salt and pepper or whatever, that my parents saw that or had any curiosity about that in me. And I think that the best relationships of any age and any stage are ones where people maintain a curiosity about the other person. And
Yes.
so, um, feeling as though your parents think your beliefs, your interests, your even if they're lightly held, even if they change tomorrow, that they matter, that your perspective matters, that they
Yes.
see you contemplating things and they take you seriously in that contemplation instead of just saying it's a phase. You'll get over it. You'll
Yeah.
come back to my way of thinking.
Yes.
I think all of that is so important in being strong enough to develop your resilience and your coping skills.
I love it. You're just making me think about when my parents used to say, well, it's just a phase, how dismissive that felt,
That's
how
right.
negating of who I actually thought I was in that particular moment just never felt good, right?
It never felt good. Yeah. And I would dig my heels in. I can remember, we're talking about the friendship stuff. I can remember my dad saying that a friend of mine was sneaky. And I was like, I like doubled down on that friend because I was so mad that he said that. And she was sneaky. But I was like,
Don't you
how
judge
dare
my
you?
friend, Dad.
Yeah, exactly. And then same thing when he made fun of Culture Club or whatever poster I had in my room, I was like, I love them even more now.
Mhm.
So being dismissive, it's such a backfire. It
Such a
causes your kid to
backfire.
dig their heels in, and then you don't get that moment of connection. You don't get to find out what do you like about this friend? Like you asked earlier,
Yeah. But
or what do you like about this band?
I think we fall into being dismissive when we're scared.
Yes. Well,
I
and people are scared of what they don't know. And
Yeah.
so it feels like I don't get this music you listen to. It feels violent to me. I don't understand why you like it.
Yes. I'm scared of
Right?
who you will become if you are one of those people who is a groupie of that band.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I
Exactly.
want to circle back to mattering and just ask you this. We were discussing it in one of my parenting groups the other day, and I tasked the moms with wonder what you can do in your home to help your kids feel like they matter to the family. Like if they were not there, the family would implode. They play such a huge role. And we all brainstorm together, and it's an ongoing conversation about, I wonder what the right, not the right, but one of the answers is to that question.
So I have several answers. One of the things that I do, I have these summer camps here in North Carolina, and they're week long. They're not overnight, they're day camps. We give an award to every kid at the end of the camp. They're for middle schoolers and they're kind of about social leadership. And tell the teachers and the interns who are high schoolers working at the camp, find a quality in this child that they may not recognize that they have,
Mm,
that and figure out how they use that to lead others. So if you have a kid who's very funny, I don't want that kid to get the humor award.
right.
That kid knows they're funny. They like that's obvious to them. But did you notice that they were funny and that they shared their lunch with another kid who forgot theirs? Or did you notice that when there was a lull in conversation, they could creatively come up with something to talk about? I want you to dig deep on these awards and pluck out the thing that they might not see in themselves, but that is there, that is real, that you've seen.
Hmm.
So I think as parents, we can offer that gift to our kids. I think
I
sometimes
love that.
parents, they're afraid of labeling a kid and saying, you're the smart one
Yes.
and you're the social one. You don't want to do that. But the smart kid knows they're smart. The social kid knows that they're the social kid.
Mhm.
That's so clear to everyone. Look for the deeper thing. The social kid might be also the empathizer.
Yes.
The
And
kid
it
who
looks like,
yeah.
it sounds like look for the deeper thing that might be just in its budding stage,
Yes.
and you
Yes.
want to pull it and help grow it and highlight it.
That's right. That's right. And every kid has a bunch of those. So
For sure.
your job is to go on a scavenger hunt and find those things. To just sit back and observe.
Love it. I talk to my clients a lot about I'm in the practice of holding a mirror up and just showing you, hey, I already see this thing. Do you see this thing in that mirror?
Yeah.
And I think that I could fit right there as well. That idea of like, I don't know if you know this about yourself,
Yes.
but listen to what I notice. And isn't that incredible about you?
It's such a gift.
It's such a gift. Yeah.
Yeah, especially for, as you think, a kid who's in the identity forming phase. So
Yes.
they're bellying up to the buffet and they're trying all these different things and they don't really know,
Yes.
who am I? And if you can say, I've observed you're the kind of kid who, helps out when someone's struggling, that's huge. That helps them with the identity development process.
Okay, and this makes me go back to what we were saying about maintaining a curious stance
Yeah,
is just such a gift as a parent, and always wanting to know your kid better and taking the time, finding the time to set everything else aside and dig in with like, no, but like I really want to understand when you were doing that project, did you start with this or that? Why do you wonder why you started with that? Who helped you? Who got in your way? Like the nitty-gritty that really helps you be curious, right? And
right.
I find, I'm sure you find the same. Everyone's like, what? I don't have that kind of time. We're just like barely getting by. How would I have that kind of time?
That makes me so sad. I want to reference a study that came out recently, and it was I was a few years ago. It was Ellen Galinsky who did this research, and she asked kids who were, I think maybe I'm not going to remember this exactly correctly, but let's say they were through middle school for sure,
Yeah,
elementary and middle at
yeah.
least. I think there was some early high school, might have been through sophomore year. What do you wish for your parents? What is your one wish if you could change one thing about
I'm
your
already
parents?
scared to hear the answer.
Well, like a majority of the parents said, "Oh, I predict the kids are going to say they wish I spent more time, like that I had more time because I'm so there. We have no time," just like you said. But that is not at all what the kids said. The kids said, "I wish my parents were less stressed." So your child doesn't need you to be available all the time, but when you are available, they need you to be relaxed and present and not worried about the next activity.
Yes, yes.
It's that future
And
casting.
it's the future casting. It also makes me think about something comes up in conversation a lot about just can you invite your kid to go have a hot chocolate with no agenda? You're not going to talk about how to get on the travel soccer team. It's not, it's just, can you go like, hey, let's just go get a hot chocolate. And you literally sit down and just go,
Yeah.
and they're like, hello, are you being normal, mom? But it's like they get to just enjoy being present with you without
Yeah.
you interrogating them or trying to schedule something.
And if you're not comfortable with the silence, ask a weird question. Like how many of these mini marshmallows do you think we could fit in our mouths? Or how many, like, how do you think if somebody invented marshmallows? Or, you
Love it.
know,
Yeah.
anything weird is going to get a kid talking more than how are things going?
Yeah. Tell me about your math
Uh,
problem.
I want to add a little quick plug. On Tuesdays on my Instagram, I do a Text Your Teen Tuesday with a weird question.
I love it. And they're super weird.
They're super
They're
weird.
super weird
Yep.
and funny but like inviting. Love it.
It's an easy way to talk because there's no pressure, no stakes. There's no right answer to what would you do if you got given a goat today, right? The kid doesn't have to worry. Am I going to answer this in a way that my mom wants me to? Because it's
Totally. Totally. I love it. How did you come up with that idea?
I don't know. Well, I like weird questions. I bring them to parties. I collect them. I am a curator of weird things and questions among them. So I
Are you
just,
able to share one or two of your sources of these weird questions?
oh, I make them up.
Oh, you do? Okay. Do they
Yes.
just come from your own brain? I love it.
My own weird brain. Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to take this conversation a slightly different direction. I know that you know a lot about hardships that occur during the teenage years in terms of
Yes.
friendship dynamics, friendship breakups. And I guess my question is just how do we help kids weather the friendship storms?
So I want parents to understand that friendships are not built to last. Relationships generally don't last your entire life. And we somehow parents see it as a real personality flaw if their kid doesn't want to be friends with someone anymore, or if someone doesn't want to be friends with their kids anymore. I see parents again on these Facebook groups saying like, "What is wrong? I'm heartbroken. My kid was friends with this kid since they were in preschool. They're in eighth grade, and the friend is ignoring them. What a cruel person
Oh,
this other person is." And
yes.
I do want kids to treat each other with dignity. It's a big ask for that age, but to treat each other with dignity, even if they don't want to be friends anymore. But parents have to first accept friendships change. People change, and kids are undergoing so many changes during that phase of life. It's likely that they're going to want to try on some new people and see what that feels like. So let's approach this without judgment for the person who either is left behind or the person who's moving forward. It happens. Kids have a far better chance of spreading out and then coming back together if we don't get involved. So
Tell
rather than,
us more, Michelle. That is
yeah, don't
crucial.
don't call that other parent.
Yes.
Don't insert yourself. Don't start asking others if they see what you see and planting seeds of, rumor and any of that. You just do not get involved. You just say you can do one of two things. You can say to your kid, "Looks like you're not hanging out with so and so much anymore. If you want to talk about that, I'm here to listen. I understand things change over time." You can do that. And you can say to your friend, if you're friends with the mom of that kid, and you're like, "Now what do we do? We used to always, the four of us, go hang out."
Yeah.
You can say to that mom, "It looks like they're spending less time together. Maybe this is some kind of growing pains that happens in middle school. Let's you and I go get coffee and we'll let the kids stay home, do
Yeah.
their own thing."
Yeah.
Maintain your own friendships. Show your child that you can do that. You can maintain friendships even when other people in the group are
Mhm.
feeling differently. Um, and just again, kind of observe, be supportive, believe your child. When your child says, "I don't like being around this person anymore,"
Yes.
believe them. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, I love it. That's such crucial advice. And it's a topic that comes up over and over again in my office, I'm sure in your work as well. So that's excellent advice. Thank you.
Yeah.
What's one way that you think listeners can nurture relationships now so that they'll have resilience in a time of need? I see resilience sometimes as this, things we do now to invest in future needs of resilience. I don't know if that question
Yeah.
makes sense.
I think so. So I have this metaphor that I use when I'm talking with parents about building kids who have resilience, and it's called greenhouse parenting. So greenhouse keepers create these nurturing greenhouses where everything's perfect. The conditions are supreme. The soil is just right. The air temperature is exact. Everything is the way it should be to raise a little tiny, tender, fragile plant.
Mhm.
And the plants start to grow. And then occasionally the greenhouse keepers will do this thing called hardening off the plants, where they take the plants outside when it's really cold. And the plants shrivel up and they don't like that. And then they bring them back into the very cozy warmth of the greenhouse. They unfurl their leaves and they relax. And these plants learn over time, being exposed to harsh conditions outside, that it won't kill them to be out in the cold. And so when the plant is big enough, they take the plant outside, they transplant it, and it's got this sort of muscle memory of like, okay, I can deal with these harsh conditions.
Mhm.
I want parents to think about their role as being the greenhouse parent. Create the most nurturing house you can. Make it warm, make it loving. Occasionally open the door. Let your kid go out into the world where they make dumb decisions,
Get
where they
dressed up.
make bad choices, where they hurt someone, where they get hurt, and welcome them back into the greenhouse with warmth and comfort, and let it be a place where they can unfurl and just say, "Oh, that was hard out there today." And you love them through that. And then the next day you say, "There you go again. It's still your world. You didn't get in trouble. You can go out there and experience it again." Now, if your kid is doing things that are really harming themselves or someone else, obviously they don't get to go out for a while. You've got to keep them close until they're okay.
Mhm.
Generally speaking, I would say to parents, don't be afraid of all of the little bumps in the road, all of the social disruptions, all of the bad feelings and the friendship drama and the bad grades and the not making the soccer team. All of that is kind of hardening them, building this resilience over time, and they have the comfort of your house to process it. And it's like lifting weights. They get stronger and stronger each time until finally it's time to get a job or go to college or whatever they're going to do after they leave your greenhouse. And they're like, okay, I've felt this before. I know that when I felt this before, it goes away.
Mhm.
I know that there are things I can do to make myself feel better when I feel this. My
Mhm.
mom always made me a cup of tea. All right, I'll get a cup of tea.
Yep.
I'll sit here, I'll talk
Yep.
about it, and then I'll go back out.
That is such a beautiful metaphor for building resilience.
Thanks.
That really, really resonates with me. It makes me think about what I teach about home is like the safe port.
Yes.
They come back to that safe port, and I have to tell you a really quick little story about when my now 23-year-old daughter was 2 years old, preschool, scared of everything, cried at drop off, trying to get her set up, and they would allow her to bring her blankie, her little transitional object from home, but it had to remain in the cubby. And
Ah,
the teachers were so sweet and adoring, and they would send me a little note and they'd say, "Riley just stepped over to her cubby in the middle of the day to get a quick little hit off her blankie, like, and then she would put it back." And my husband and I would laugh so much about, like, it's like getting a little hit off, like, what home and safety smells like, and then, like, "And I'm back. Where's the
yes.
Play-Doh? Let's go," right?
Right. It's so incredible that a 2-year old can know that, right?
Yes. Yes.
And that just tells us, like, if a 2-year old can know that, then anyone can know that. And
Yes.
so have some faith that just by providing that cozy, comfy warmth
Mhm.
and letting your child go back into the world, they're doing what they need to do.
I
They're getting that. They're getting what they need.
I love it. That's beautiful. So, I want to begin to wrap up with you by talking about scripts. I don't know about you, but I imagine in your work, it's very similar to mine. Parents constantly ask me for scripts. They say,
Yeah.
"Can you tell me the exact words that I'm supposed to say to
Yeah.
my teenager in XYZ situation?" So, let's think about our middle school kids who are trying to survive those tough years. They're not invited to this party. They thought they could sit with this lunch table, but those kids are kind of giving them the hand. Those moments of struggle, is there a certain go to script? And obviously, it depends on all the situations, but sort of some template that you have that you could offer to parents as a way of supporting their kids when they come to them for advice?
Well, the book 14 Talks is full of scripts that are specific to different scenarios. So you'll find friendship in there and, independence and all of these things. I think a kind of a general conversation opener around these things is to say, um, something again, non-judgmental and just sort of like, I'm curious if you don't want to dive right in. This is the problem. If you dive right into your kid didn't get invited to a party and you say, how do you feel about not being invited to that
Yeah.
party? That's like, ugh, yes. So it may just be something like, I'm curious what parties are like at this age. Like how are they organized? Because when I was in middle school, it was like this. So you could start with a kind of a broad
Mhm.
thing, and this gets into the brief model that I have in the book. So it's like begin peacefully and broadly,
Yes.
relate to your kid to show that you're not probing to get information because you want to prove a point or find out something that they haven't told you. You just relate to them by saying, this can be hard to talk about, but I want to make it really easy. I don't have any, I'm not coming into this with any kind of goal or judgment, but just want to kind of chit chat.
Mhm.
You can ask them questions, but you want them to be global, not specific, not, well, who was invited to the party?
Oh, yes.
More of a global, like, how do people react to that when someone brings in invitations in? Or how do people react? Are there other kids who you think maybe feel similarly to you here? So very kind of general,
Mhm.
um, and you echo what they say. So you say, it sounds like you're saying like this party was a pretty big deal and most of the kids went. Um,
Mm.
and then you can give feedback at the end. So it spells brief. Feedback is the last piece. And feedback is where you say something like, here's what I feel like I heard. And feedback might just be, I feel this for you. Like this sucks. And let's talk about what would make you feel better,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
know? Or it might be more specific. It might be, do you want to talk about ways you can nurture some other friendships because this person seems like maybe they're not, the best person for you to be around. So you can kind of play around with that a little bit. But I think the biggest tip, the biggest headline here is tread slowly, carefully, and globally around a conversation topic rather than diving into the deep end with specifics.
I love it. It's great advice.
Thanks.
I could talk to you all day, Michelle, but I know you have a life that you probably need to return to.
Dogs to take care of and weird questions to think up.
And weird questions. I love it. Well, I'm just delighted that you made time for me and this podcast. And I am so excited for my listeners to hear this. I think you offered so many excellent tips. And I'm left with so many more questions I have about resilience and all of the ways that you and I are both teaching resilience. But I'll say to end the same thing I say to my clients, like, keep it on the front of your brain and just scan for it as you're going through your week, and you're going to notice it everywhere, and just keep building the tools that you have to offer. So
I love that.
yeah,
Thank you so much. I enjoyed talking with you. This was great.
So
I
nice.
really
Thank you
appreciate
so
the
much for
invite.
your time.
Yeah,
Take
of
care.
course. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of How Are You Arriving? Please follow me on Instagram at CMY Therapy. As always, like, follow, and subscribe. See you next time.